The Hori Split Pad Pro and the newer Split Pad Compacts are really good Joy-Con replacements for the Nintendo Switch. They give you more of that Pro controller type feel and better grip. But they do have their differences, and I've used both of them for quite a while now, so I'm going to compare and contrast them to help you decide which ones are better. I said this before, but I feel like the Compact just looks and feels a lot more official. So the Compacts are not as wide, they're not as thick either, and they're a little short because it doesn't have this little pointy part at the bottom. And as far as size and shape goes, that's just going to depend on your own personal preference. I've got very slim fingers, so I actually don't mind the smaller size. Maybe I'm weird, but I actually really like the Joy-Con. My biggest complaint with them though has to be that there's not much travel with the sticks, and that's fine for most games. It just really depends on the game that you're playing. When you compare the Split Pad Pro to the Split Pad Compact, the Compact is actually a little bit shorter, but the travel distance isn't really that much of a difference. And they both have rubber on the top, although the Compact adds a little bit extra detail, a little bit extra grip on there, which honestly, I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but I think it's really nice that they added that. One thing I don't quite love about both of these though is that they do have quite a bit of a dead zone. Yeah, it looks like the sticks have a lot more travel to them, but they don't actually detect your movement until you get like right over here a little bit to the edge. So in my opinion, that kind of makes it just the same as the Joy-Con. You're just skipping a little bit of it. And you know, if you're playing a game where you're usually holding the edge of the stick, honestly, for the most part, I don't notice because I'm always doing this to move around. But in a game where you're constantly going from the left to the right, I think you might notice there's actually a little bit of moment here where nothing is taking place, and it can kind of result in you feeling like you're like skating on ice a little bit, almost like you're sliding or you're slipping around. Some people are not reporting on that problem, so I wonder if it's really just a matter of preference. You know, I can be pretty picky, so it may just depend on the games you play and your personal preferences. I'm actually glad that they made these a little bit more narrow. The Pros always felt so awkward to me being such a wide grip. The Compacts just put you closer to the Switch. It gives you a little bit more of that Joy-Con feel, which I like. It just makes it feel more like it's made for the Switch, you know, kind of like it's just a little bit more official. One interesting thing about the Pros is that it kind of comes to a point here at the end, which doesn't really matter much if you're holding the Switch down, like if you're sitting up and you're looking down at the Switch. But if you're holding it upright, like you're laying in bed, and with gravity, that point is kind of sticking into the palm of your hand. And you know, I kind of felt that to be a little bit painful over time. There's actually a good thing to that. It keeps them from sliding out of your hands. It kind of gives it a spot to rest there in your palm. So love it or hate it, but it's gone now. It's got a little hump right there, a little bump, and there's no battery in here. So it's just strictly for design. But for me and my hands, that just fits perfectly. I always felt the Pros to be a little cumbersome, and I mean, that shape is kind of nice, but it just doesn't necessarily contour to my hand or anything. As far as the texture on the back to give you the grip, the Pros use this really fine, almost honeycomb kind of design, where the Compacts use this like paint splattering looking thing. Have y'all seen anything like this before? I don't think I've ever seen this on a controller. It's kind of weird because you can barely feel it. It's way more smooth than you might think. I want to say the Split Pad Pro actually feels a little bit more grippy, but they're so similar, it really doesn't make a difference in my opinion. I don't know about you, but I don't have a problem with like my Switch sliding out of my hand or anything, especially when you've got these round contours either way you go. And I think being a smaller controller, you really just don't need as much grip. Both have just about the same D-pad, which is a really cool D-pad, but I want to say the Compact, it has a little bit less travel, and it's a little bit more flush, which I like. It makes it feel like it's going to be a little bit faster. One cool difference is that the buttons on the Compact are smaller and closer together, and they don't quite have as much travel either. I like this because, again, it just makes it feel a little bit more official, a little bit more similar to those Joy-Con. And not only that, but you'll notice the buttons, they don't go right to the edge like they do on the Pros. On the Split Pad Pros, the A button is on the very edge and it just kind of falls off the side, which was always a little awkward to me. The buttons were also kind of loud and hollow sounding, and you don't have that on the Compacts. Even the button on the back isn't as loose. It's just a better built controller. And while these extra buttons on the Pros were made out of rubber, they're fully plastic on the Compacts. I think a lot of people are gonna like that. I'm fine either way, really. I'm sure some people could have had like a durability issue with it breaking if they're too rough on it. So maybe some kudos there for durability. And yes, both models have turbo and rapid fire functionality. The L and R buttons, in my opinion, are relatively unchanged. They get the job done and they don't unnecessarily go back too far, so they're okay in my book. No rumble or Amiibo here, and they can't be used wirelessly. Which ones do you like best? I absolutely prefer the Split Pad Compact. I feel like they feel better. They just have that more official vibe to them, and I'm loving these new designs. But it's all gonna come down to your own personal preference and the size and shape of your hands. So let us know in the comments what you think. And for more Nintendo Switch unboxing videos, please hit that subscribe button and then tap that box right there to see a comparison of the Split Pad Compact and a bunch of other controllers, or just tap that other box for another video that YouTube thinks you're gonna enjoy, and I'll see you over there in another one. Thanks everyone. AC said 10%.